Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations around money. I'm your host, Lauren, a 4-time Olympian and certified financial planner. On this show, my guests share their money stories. Everyone has a unique story and experiences both wins and losses when it comes to money. My intent is to give listeners something they can relate to, something that builds their courage to be open and take control of their own money story. When I'm not creating a great show for my listeners, I'm running my company, Worth Winning, where I help individuals and families organize their finances. Check us out at worth-winning.com. All right, now on with the show. Happy New Year, good people. I hope your 2025 is off to a good start. Hope you enjoyed your holiday season. I know it's crazy. We're already in March. We're ending up the first quarter of the year. But your girl had to take a break. We had to take a little bit of a rest because if you didn't know, now you know that I am having a human. There's a little human joining the family somewhere in June. She's due on June 15th, but you know, babies do whatever they want to do. So congratulations, Lauren. Woo, woo, woo. I'm going to congratulate myself. I'm not going to hear you guys saying congratulations to me. But we are back and I'm here with Chloe today. We are starting off this next series with our Know Better, Do Better. We actually have 4 episodes coming your way, and it's all about, you know, this new year, because so many people have reached out to me with worry and concern and stress related to all the different changes that we've been experiencing this year. So today's episode is going to be preparing for uncertainty, but this series is also going to be preparing for uncertainty. We're going to talk about all things good financial habits and how to make sure that you're ready and in good shape when something comes up that you weren't quite prepared for. Preparing to leave the country, because people are threatening to do that all the time nowadays. They're like, get me out of here. I've done it. So I'll share my experience with you. And then another one that, you know, it's not funny at all, but navigating a layoff. You know, that's something that certainly no one is planning for. You go to work one day, everything is fine. And then all of a sudden, you know, no fault of your own, you're now without a job. And tens of thousands of people have experienced that this year as a result of the different changing political climate and, you know, just all that's going on in the world. So we got 4 episodes, like I said, coming your way. And today we're doing Preparing for Uncertainty. And Chloe is looking at me like, when are you going to let me in, girl? When are you going to let me in? Chloe is here, y'all. Don't worry. She is here. Chloe, say hi to the people.
Hey, everybody.
So we're going to start with what we always start with. If you're new to this show, we do trends, taxes, and tea at the top of every series to help you understand how to save more, pay less. And we usually, you know, sometimes share a current event that has to do with money. So Chloe, what do we have today? Trend, taxes, or tea?
Today we're talking about trend. So there's a TikTok trend that I've seen in the last couple of months called the No Spend Challenge. So basically, the concept has been around for years, but it gained a lot of popularity last year. And it's continued, you know, this year at the beginning of the year. A lot of people like to think about New Year's resolutions, how they can make themselves better. So people started with like a no spend January at the beginning of the year. And a lot of this is really fueled by all of the political and economic uncertainty, inflation. Everybody's talking about the price of eggs and everything else. So the idea is to spend only on, you know, things that you need. So necessities, essential things. And not make a bunch of extra purchases like eating out or just impulse shopping, clothing, things like that. So if you can go a day or two, a weekend, up to a month or even more without spending, you know, that's kind of what the challenge is all about.
Okay, so the first thing I can't get past actually is this whole price of eggs things, because like I said, I live in another country and this is not a concern for us. I actually did the math on my eggs just now as Chloe was talking, and I was like, it's $5 for 30 eggs. That's what my current price is. And they're organic eggs, you know, from the farm. Like these are the fancy eggs. Chloe, how much are eggs in Atlanta, Georgia right now?
Well, I buy organic pasture raised, and so I've seen them like $7 or $8 for a dozen.
Oh my God, $8 for 12? Which means like 12 times 2 is 24. So you still don't, $16, you have not as many eggs as I do for 5. That's really sad.
Yeah.
Y'all stay strong over there with those expensive eggs. that's a reason in and of itself to flee the country.
Yeah, yeah.
Or no spend. Let's not spend on eggs. Like, let's go back to the no spend challenge.
I know. I was like, maybe the trend should have been alternatives to eggs.
Right. Here's where you can get your protein instead of eggs.
Yeah.
Well, you said this concept has been around for a while, but all of a sudden it's like a thing. And I think it is, like you said, so much of everything that is driven this year has been, you said people are very stressed out, they're very worried, and they're trying to figure out like what they can do to take control of their finances or take control of their life. In a world where they feel like they have very little control. I know one of the things that like we don't have any control over right now that's affecting, my work and also a lot of the clients that I have is student loans. There is nothing we can do right now but wait. They've put a pause on any payment plans, regardless of, you being on your right payment plan and everything going fine. Almost nobody is paying their student loans right now because there's this thing called recertification that you need to do, and you can't recertify because they've shut everything down. So it's like, I was on the right plan. I was minding my own business. I'm not tied up in this court injunction that's been going on since July of last year. But now all of a sudden I am affected by this thing because I can't actually update my payment and keep going. And so, like I said, to that point of just like, it's crazy right now. The good news is, from a no spend challenge standpoint, you're not spending money on your student loan payment. So we can do a little cabbage patch for that. But it's just a crazy time. And I feel you all, each and every person out there that's just like struggling to understand, like, what do I need to do in light of this uncertainty? Don't worry. Me and Chloe got you.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it's so popular is just the cost of everything is going up. And so people's budgets are getting tighter. And so whereas people could just go and buy a bunch of things every week on Amazon or go shopping online for clothing and all this other stuff, or go out on the weekends and go shopping, people are cutting back. And so this challenge really gives you, a goal to not spend money when you don't need to.
Chloe, have you ever participated in a no spend challenge?
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny. I go several days without spending anyway. So it's not really a challenge. It's just kind of how I live my life.
We just got to grow up and be like Chloe one day. Like, let's just stop buying stuff on a day-to-day basis. But I know a lot of people are doing things like meal prep, preparing for their week. And that helps you make sure that you don't have to spend. It's like, okay, if I already bought stuff, even if I re-up on Wednesday and try to, cook something different so that I don't have to eat the same thing all week, it is possible for people to just make that one time out, spend your day getting yourself together and be ready for the week. So, you don't have to spend as much during the week.
There's a couple of articles I found about no spend challenges and just some tips for, if that's something that you're looking to do and just how to reduce the number of times that you spend or the things that you spend money on. So we'll put that in the show note.
Absolutely. All right, let's get this party started. So as we prepare for whatever the uncertainty is that's coming our way, what's the first thing we need to be thinking about, Chloe?
Yeah, the first thing is, don't be fooled by all of the information, the scams, don't get too concerned. Looking back even during COVID time, there were a lot of financial influencers that came out of the blue. We've talked about this, in our series a lot of times before. There's so many get rich quick schemes and, just different things that are not genuine and not really out there to help you. So just, be careful of those things. And also there's just so much information, like overload from news, social media, group chats, friends talking about the market and what they're doing, what we need to do. Just really think about all of that kind of stuff as you're navigating all of this uncertainty.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with the scams. I feel like people get scammed because they're ignorant. So you're already doing something good by trying to take in information like via this podcast and just educate yourself so that you can be alert. The one thing I'll say about scams is if it sounds too good to be true, it is. You're like, gosh, this is, I don't have to pay taxes ever again. All I got to do is set up this LLC, even though you were never interested in starting a bit. Like, what? If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Just like plain and simple. And that's a good way to avoid some of the problems that, like I said, people are encountering with this. Kind of like you said, that's also part of the information overload. Social media is constantly telling us something. Look at this, do this. The world's ending over here. Care about these people. Don't care about these people. These people are fighting. And you're just like, the stress and the anxiety comes from, I don't even know what to believe or what not to believe. And I don't know who to care for or who not to care for. And so you end up in this kind of like analysis paralysis phase. And also, like I said, just stressed out. The other thing too is group chats. That's been the bane of my existence this year and over the last couple months. We operate using WhatsApp a lot when you're outside of the country. So if you travel somewhere, people, businesses, etc. But there's also a lot of group chats that I have via WhatsApp right now while living in Colombia. There's like a Black female one. There's one for, just being like Black in general. There's one for moms. There's one, you name it, there's a group chat for it. But everybody doesn't stick to the script when you're in a group chat. And so sometimes you're also getting that information overload from people just talking about what's on their mind, and they're oversharing in a way that, like I said, stresses you out, or you feel like you need to respond. And before you know it, you've been down a rabbit hole, you got no work done. So just don't get caught up in the information overload, avoid the scams. And I'd say also look at people that have credentials. Like before you consume the information, like who is giving me this information and why do I want to listen to them? Is it just somebody who feels like, spouting off at the mouth on Facebook? Or is it somebody who actually is like doing some real research and understanding and can back up what they're saying? Which to that point, you would also want to avoid people who are going to guarantee a certain return or guarantee a certain outcome, because nothing in life is guaranteed. So, yeah, be mindful of these things.
Yeah, and even with the group chats or just talking to friends, or things that you see on social media, just try to make sure that you're listening to credible sources. And if your friends are giving you information, that those are coming from credible sources. Are your friends just scrolling on social media all day and just finding a bunch of opinions, or are they listening to podcasts from people like us who are certified financial planners, or reading books from experts? So just think about the source of the information as well as you're listening to friends, or if it's a friend, that maybe is somewhere where you want to be eventually, like they're really responsible with their money. You see that they're doing good things and making positive changes. Like that's someone that you could probably rely on more so than someone who's, done a lot of crazy, crazy investments.
Exactly. And like I said, all of this is usually rooted in like things that you're trying to control, but you don't really have a good idea of what you can control. And so, like I said, because you're a little bit ignorant, you're like, okay, I'm going to listen to this person because it sounds like I can get a grip on things if I do whatever their strategy was. But the reality is we really do need to focus on what we know we can control. So Chloe, let's talk about a few things that like you actually can control versus, like you said, this scammy kind of world that you can't get a grip on sometimes.
Yeah, the first thing is just continue building your emergency fund and short-term savings accounts. We talk about this all the time. Make sure you have money set aside for a rainy day. Generally, we recommend at least 6 months of your take-home pay. If you feel like you might be laid off, or if you're single and don't have anyone else to depend on, if you lose your job, or if you have like a big medical expense that comes up, if you're a business owner or breadwinner, if you're a couple and one person makes significantly more than the other, all those things could maybe lean towards bumping it up to 12 months of take-home pay. So that way you have a good bit of cushion there to find another job and to pivot if you need to. And so for some clients, if they've seen a lot of layoffs in their companies, what I'm telling them is between your emergency savings and whatever the standard severance package is, make sure the combination of those two things gets you up to 12 months.
That is great advice, actually, is thinking about the severance package. Like I said, when it comes to layoff, there's usually something coming your way in light of the fact that they're telling you you're not going to be working anymore. And not being afraid to negotiate when you get to that severance package. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm going to just take it and I'm going to go sit down somewhere. But yesterday, your life was plain and simple and normal, and you plan on showing up at work today. And then you show up at work today and they just kind of turn everything topsy-turvy. You don't have to just take what you get from your employer. You do have the ability to say, this is not quite what I was thinking. And in light of the inconveniences I'm suffering, I'd like to, counter with XYZ. So don't be afraid to do that as well. And it will give you some wiggle room to be able to take kind of a informal sabbatical if you can get that 12 months. A lot of times you see on the internet 3 months as the minimum emergency fund. And we're getting further and further away from that. That is like the bare minimum emergency fund that we should be looking at. And if you're just getting started with life, like, great. Get to the 3 months. Once you get to the 3 months, keep saving. Get to the 6 months, and then decide what do you need to do from that point forward. The more months you have, the more flexibility you have. And, the thing I think about this as well, sometimes you're in a toxic work environment and you just want to kind of throw up your middle finger and walk out the office. Well, you can't do that with a 3 month emergency fund or with no emergency fund. And so when I think of the 12-month emergency fund, I call it kind of the FU fund. It just makes you feel so much more free and liberated to be able to find something different when you have a good bit of cash on hand. Nobody ever feels sad that they had too much cash on hand when push comes to shove, which is exactly what this episode is about. You never know when push is going to come to shove.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of high earning like tech employees. They have between their salary, bonuses and stock, they can make multiple six figures. So those kind of jobs are getting harder and harder to find. So if you are laid off or if you voluntarily quit, it could take you up to 12 months to find another job, and you might not make as much money as you did before. So that really gives you a lot of flexibility and peace of mind.
Yeah, and if you're in a tough situation, I mean, what we sometimes think of as unexpected income, but we should really be expecting it, is like a bonus or a tax refund. Those things can help you in a situation, like you said, if something gets a little bit sticky, like, that you worked hard and that some bonus is coming your way. How big that bonus is, you might not know. But like I said, we're in March now, so you probably got paid out for whatever the bonus was last year at this point. How you spend that is in your control. And how you spend that tax return, like, we're rolling up on April right now. If you don't have an accountant, you haven't done your taxes yet, get it together. Get it together quickly. But your tax refund, I say this all the time as well, is not free money. It is part of your salary that was owed to you. So yeah, everybody gets so excited when they get their refund, but you basically lent your money to the government all year long. And that's money that you could have been keeping yourself out of credit card debt, building this emergency fund, or, just doing something else with up to this point. And so those are two great things that you can take control of how you spend them.
Yeah. And then, something else that I probably don't have to point out because the market pretty much tanked today was that, for your emergency fund, any kind of short-term savings, money that you'll need in the next, few years, keep it in cash in a high yield savings account. Don't put it in the market. Don't invest it. There could be times like today where, your investments are down a lot, and then you have to come up with some cash and you end up selling something at a loss. So if you have that cash somewhere that's safe and stable and earning a little bit of interest, that's your best bet.
Absolutely. And that's another thing. When you hear a 12-month emergency fund, if you come from a background where nobody ever had a lot of cash on hand, people pretty much have always lived paycheck to paycheck, and you're just like new to this, you're like, oh my God, it's so much money. Like 12 months of what I'm bringing home, or 12 months, like, it's literally like a year of your salary. And you're just like, you just want me to sit around and do nothing with it, Lauren? And I'm like, yeah, basically, its job is to jump into action when there's an emergency. We have other monies that you're putting aside for other things, your investing account, your retirement account, your, fill in the blank, home down payment. Every dollar that you have should have some sort of purpose. And the purpose of this emergency fund is to sit there and do nothing. I know it's hard to watch a full year salary or a full year of expenses, sitting in an account. But that's exactly what it should be doing, so that at a time like this, where, like you said, the world is topsy-turvy, the market crashes and you get laid off, you're not selling your $120,000 emergency fund. You're trying to cash out on it. It's only worth 60 grand. And now you really only have 6 months because you were taking the risk with your emergency fund.
Another thing to think about, it kind of goes back to the no spend challenge that we talked about at the top of the hour, is keeping your expenses under control. So, just try not to buy things you don't need. Hold off on large purchases unless they're necessary. This isn't the time to go out and buy a brand new car, or, get a new house or upgrade your house, do renovations on the house. If it's some necessary repairs that you need to do that could turn into a bigger problem in the future for your car or your house, spend the money on those things. But try not to spend a lot of unnecessary money, especially in large quantities.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And it's so hard. Like I said, sometimes we're stressed out. And what do we do when we're stressed out? We spend. I just finished a course called Trauma of Money, and there's so much about how our emotions affect the way that we actually govern ourselves financially. And this could be one of the hardest things to do when you're facing financial uncertainty because of the stress you're experiencing, because of the bullying you're experiencing, because of the fill in the blank negative emotion that you're experiencing. It's natural for a lot of people to want to go do something like to make themselves feel better in the form of spending, but it's also the worst thing you can do for your finances. So, try to get those things in check, try to see a therapist, try to talk to someone, accountability groups, get a good friend, find a safe place to vent and talk about these things. And also like a financial professional. If you have somebody, you're like, hey, I'm stressed out. Like, can we set up a meeting? Sometimes the financial planner is there just to hear you out and talk you off that ledge. So don't be afraid to talk to somebody to keep these expenses under control so that you're not buying things you don't need at a time like this.
Yeah, and another thing that you can do is unsubscribe to a lot of those promotional emails that tempt you to spend. And even the ads on social media, you can pause those or change your settings so that you don't see as many of those ads and you're not so tempted to just buy things.
Yeah, I mentor a group of young ladies in Dallas, and we had a little chat about this at one point. And so we had a challenge within our group to everybody to unsubscribe from Fashion Nova. And it helped gargantuanly for these young ladies to not be seeing the stuff coming into their inbox. And they didn't realize how much it was affecting their ability to, say no, because it's like, oh, look at this cool deal. Oh, look at this cute dress. Look at this, fill in the blank. And yeah, but getting rid of that stuff that you think is like, oh, it's just junk mail, it's not bothering me. You'd be surprised how often your brain is clicking on something and you're not actually planning on clicking on it.
Yeah. Another thing is adjust your income expectations. So if you are looking for a job, like I mentioned, some of them are taking a lot longer to find. You might not make as much. Then also, if you work in a job right now where you have maybe variable income, I have some clients that have a base salary and maybe half or more of their income is based on a bonus or like sales incentives or things like that. That stuff can fluctuate. If you're commission based, that money could fluctuate. So just make sure you're planning accordingly and getting accustomed to living off that base, or, if you're 100% variable, living off of a base that you can comfortably assume that you can earn.
Yeah, this is so hard for so many people. I have people that just kind of stump their feet at me when I had individual clients because they would have like a $60,000 income, but they'd earn $300,000 or $400,000 a year, but it's all commission based. And so when I try to stabilize, like here's our realistic amount that we can probably spend on a monthly basis, but we can't build a life based on $300,000 a year when all we're guaranteed is 60. And so finding that kind of like happy medium for people and like, helping them live well below their means is a really hard thing to do. And I see this a lot also with athletes. Our income as athletes is very variable. You might have a great season and you earn $300,000 or $400,000 a year, but you said same thing. You have like a $60,000 a year contract. You get injured at the beginning of the season, and all you have coming in for that year is that 60 grand. And now you got a mortgage that's based on your 200,000 or 300,000 you earned a couple years before, and you're in a world of hurt. So yeah, adjusting income expectations and just living below your means from the beginning will help you be able to weather a storm versus, like you said, if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now without any financial, big changes, you're kind of taking a big risk at this point.
And another thing is, just try to maintain a diversified portfolio. So don't panic when we see these fluctuations in the market or we have down days like today. Just really think long term. And if you're in a situation, a lot of the people that listen to us are younger professionals. You have a good 20, 30 plus years before you're ever going to touch this money. Now, especially if you have your emergency fund set aside, you have money set aside for short term savings goals like travel or purchases or home repairs. So any money that you're investing is ideally something that you're not going to touch for at least 10 or more years. So don't panic in the short term and just think about the longer term, and you have the time to recover if the market is down.
Yeah, no, that is great advice. The other thing I would say is like I said, I mentioned this already, like self-care. And so self-care sometimes comes in the form of a therapist, taking a break from that social media or the news so that you're not listening to all the noise and getting off track with, just kind of all this chatter and the information overload we talked about before. But taking care of your mind, taking care of your body. We talk about it kind of in theory, but you'd be amazed how far a walk after you get off work each day goes. Like you said, cutting down on something or listening to something positive. I am a Law and Order fanatic. Actually, Chloe and I were talking about this before we started to record, and there's nothing positive about Law and Order. It is like sex, kill, rape, just awful, awful themes. And we take for granted, like, while it's entertaining, what it's putting into your head, what it's putting into your spirit, how it's affecting your energy. And so taking care of your mind and your body, like I said, choosing instead of watching Law and Order to go for that walk. And I'll say I started to walk, maybe it was about 2 years ago now, every day or almost every day. And it has made a world of a difference and just like kind of bringing, like resetting my energy after a long work day. So give it a try.
Yeah, and also we don't always think about this as self-care, but just having a plan for your money, listening to things like this, doing things to make sure that you are prepared if something bad happens, that can affect your mental health in a positive way because you don't get so worried or concerned, or you don't operate out of fear when you have, a plan and you kind of think ahead. And we'll link some resources again in the show notes about how to deal with political anxiety and just some things you can do to take care of yourself.
100%. Okay, so there's a lot of uncertainty. We talked about what to do as it relates to some of this uncertainty. One of the other things you can do is reach out to someone for help, which I brought that up a little bit earlier, but there's all kinds of different people. So I would start with like a financial planner. And when I say financial planner, I mean a certified financial planner, because there is a difference between someone who just calls themselves a financial planner. There's wealth manager, financial advisor. There's a bazillion terms out there nowadays, which also plug for my my new questions to ask a financial professional. It breaks all this down in a really good digestible way. So we'll put that in the show notes as well. But if you're going to look for a financial planner, that person needs to be a certified financial planner that is fee only and fiduciary. If you've been listening for a while, you've heard us say this before. If it's your first time, Google those three things one more time: CFP, fee only, and fiduciary. But that's not the only kind of help that you can get. There's some other people out there too. Who else is there, Chloe?
Yeah, so not everybody's ready for a financial planner. Sometimes it could be a big commitment, a big cost. So if you're really just wanting to learn the basics, how to get in charge of your budget, how to pay off debt, how to get that emergency fund in order, then you can talk to a financial coach. There's people that work with you one-on-one on a short-term basis. You could do just a one-time meeting. There's group coaching, which Lauryn does. So there's a lot of opportunities to get financial help without, committing to working with a financial planner if you're not ready.
Oh, 100%. And the other thing I think about too is, like you said, sometimes you just need help with a specific topic. There are people for each topic. So as an example, Student Loan Planner is a company that I kind of side hustle with, and I've been doing that for quite a while. If you're worried about your student loans. So many people have these federal student loans. They don't know what to do because of this injunction. They don't know what plans are going to be available. Like, you just want to quell that anxiety related to your student loans, you can talk to a student loan professional, and that's at Student Loan Planner. So like I said, all these links will be in the show notes. But if it's just insurance that is the thing that's driving you crazy, that you're like, I am taking on a lot of risk based on what you guys shared today. I need to be thinking about this. I don't have life insurance, and I, have a family. I don't know what is the proper property insurance. So many people go and they buy a house, take whatever insurance the insurance company gives you, and don't understand anything about how it actually works. Now is a good time to educate yourself about those sorts of things in case something comes up. All these different pieces of the puzzle. Who else is there, Chloe, as we think about different kind of specialists in this area of like getting the help that you need?
Yeah, I was going to say too, with the insurance piece, and we can talk about this a little bit more in one of our upcoming episodes, but there were the wildfires that happened and that devastated Los Angeles. So a lot of people were not covered, and they're not going to have enough money to rebuild their homes and get back all their belongings. So and I have clients all the time that buy expensive cars, and they barely have the insurance to cover it if something drastic happens. So having that proper insurance on your car, your house, liability, that's super important. Making sure you have enough life insurance if you have dependents or a spouse who's dependent on your income, that's super important. Other people to think about are tax preparers. So there we like to focus on either someone that has a CPA or EA designation. So certified public accountant or enrolled agent designations are good to look for someone to prepare your tax returns. If you have some kind of specialty situation like a business or equity compensation, make sure that person is familiar with how those things work. Because some tax preparers do more basic returns, some do more complex planning. Another thing is attorneys. And that could go anywhere from estate planning, someone that does your wills, your power of attorney, your healthcare directives. If you're getting married and you want to look into a prenup, a separate attorney that does like family law. So, I mean, there's different attorneys out there, there's business attorneys. But yeah, you really need kind of some of these people on your teams at different stages of your life over time. And it's good to have people that work together as a team.
Yeah. So the moral of this story is don't be afraid to hire a professional to help you get where you want to be. We sometimes isolate ourselves and we get off in kind of these silos and we're not operating to the best of our abilities because we won't enlist the help of someone else. And we absolutely need to enlist the help of someone else. So be open to investing in yourself in the form of investing in the expertise of somebody else.
All right. So then to recap, just some quick tips. Don't make drastic changes. So if you're thinking about quitting your job, starting a business, anything like that, especially if you don't have a backup plan, if you don't have that emergency fund, think twice and make sure that you're prepared. This is a rough market to be in right now as far as looking for jobs. And in some cases, with starting businesses, depending on the type of business that you're starting. Don't make large purchases, especially ones that will require ongoing payments. So, those houses, those cars, things like that, don't get yourself into more debt right now. This is not a good time for that. And you don't want to commit yourself to higher expenses. And then, just even with moving, relocating, think about those things thoroughly before you decide to make any big decisions.
100%. And don't forget to focus on what you can control. There's a lot of things that are outside of our control that are, like I said, can knock us off our block. But if we focus on what we can control, we will be prepared as we can be. And don't be afraid to ask for help because it could save you money in the long run. So often we're like, ooh, I don't like the price of this thing. But how often do you buy something that doesn't actually save you money in the long run and just gives you some kind of immediate satisfaction? Financial professionals or professionals in various walks of life can help you save money in the long run. And you need to kind of change your mindset to be thinking about that.
Yeah, it's really a lot of times it's an investment, especially to get good advice. And I've had a lot of clients that I work with, they were hesitant about investing and paying for a financial planner. But some people have been laid off. They've navigated major changes in their lives. And they've told me that if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have this 12 months set aside, or I wouldn't, have my net worth wouldn't have grown so much, or, I wouldn't have been prepared for some of these things that have happened to me.
Absolutely. So don't be afraid to call Chloe if, you listen to this podcast and you're like, oh, I definitely need a financial planner because, that's not my lane anymore. I'm not working one-on-one with individuals. I'm only doing group coaching. But same thing is if you feel like you need to learn the basics, like this was super helpful and you want to go deeper, there is a 6-week course where we cover 12 different topics and you build your own financial plan. So maybe you're not ready to hire a financial planner or you just don't have the income right now to be able to do so. There's nothing stopping you from educating yourself so that you feel more empowered to take control of your finances without the help of a professional on a regular basis. But you will have the help of a professional for the 6 weeks. So, all right. So as we wrap up, don't forget all of these next episodes coming up are going to be about navigating financial uncertainty. So we're going to talk good financial habits. We've got a checklist for you. We're going to talk, hey, if you want to flee the country, here's what you need to be thinking about, how to navigate a layoff. We also have some guests coming and talking about, their personal stories because, we like to hear the stories of others so that you can know that you're not alone, that other people are out here in this world experiencing various things within this topic as well. So, and then we'll have a couple kind of replay episodes as well that I thought were perfect for this time frame. So get ready. We're going to close it up with a money quote. Chloe, what is the money quote for today?
All right. So the money quote for today is by Gabrielle Bernstein, and it's fear is our immediate response to uncertainty. There's nothing wrong with experiencing fear. The key is not to get stuck in it.
I love this quote because this idea is like uncertainty makes you afraid. You're like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. It's normal. Like I said, it is absolutely normal if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling afraid, but there is nothing wrong with the fear piece of it. The idea is that you keep moving, and that's what we're trying to give you the tools to do. Yes, 2025 has started out a little bit weird for a lot of people. Yes, there is a lot of uncertainty for how 2025 is going to play itself out. And even just like I said, in the short term, what's going to happen with people's jobs and various different pieces of the puzzle. But don't get stuck, get educated so that you can take action and feel empowered. All right, that is all we have for you all today. We will see you all in a couple of weeks. If you need something, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find us at podcast@worth-listening.com. Chloe's website is financialstaples.com. Mine is worth-winning.com. Once again, all of that will be in the show notes, but you should be ready to rock and roll, and let's keep moving forward. Till next time.
Bye.